This video will briefly review how to prepare and resolve dissonant notes in a chord progression. We're going to just briefly go over the same progression we did in class in case you need to watch it one more time to review, to study, or refresh your memory. Here are all the rules. I know this is a lot, but in this video we'll focus on how to prepare the dissonant note and how to resolve the dissonant note. All right, so here's the progression we wrote in class. Our first chord was this G major chord, which sounds like this. Okay, and let's move to the C major major 7. First, I'm going to write this chord in reduced form so that I know which notes we need. And I will circle the dissonant note. When you have a chord with a dissonant note, the first thing you need to do is look at the previous chord and see which one of those voices can move to that note, in other words to B, by 0, 1, or 2 semitones. In this case, it is this B up here. So that top layer, or layer 4, now has the dissonant note. The bass is going to be, the bottom layer is going to be C, and then with these other two layers, I just need to make sure that all of the members of the chord are up here somewhere. So let's see, I'll keep the 3 there, and I'll move the 2 up to E, and that gives me these 2 notes right here. Next, we're moving to A minor over C. I'll first write this chord in reduced form, C, E, and A. Next, I need to make sure that this note, which is the dissonant note in the previous chord, goes down by 1 or 2 semitones. So one tricky thing about these progressions that you have to remember is that when a chord has a dissonant note, you need to look at both the previous chord and the next chord. That chord involves both the previous chord and the next chord. Okay, so this B has to go down by 1 or 2 semitones. Well, I'll see here that this chord has an A in it, so we can move down 2 semitones to the A. And that will resolve the dissonance. Okay, the bass has to be C, so I'll leave that 1 as is. And now we have an A in the chord, we have a C in the chord. Now we need to write the other 2 voices, and we just need to make sure that each one of these members of the chord appears at least once. So we don't have an E in the chord yet, which means we need it somewhere. I'll move that 3 down to E, and I'll move the 2 down to C, like so. There are other ways of doing it, but this one works. Let's hear those 3 chords. Next, we're going to lead from this A minor over C to a D major minor 7. I'll first write this chord D major minor 7 in reduced form. It looks, it's kind of hard to read. It looks like that, okay? And the dissonant note is C. So first things first, we need to follow, because this chord has a dissonant note, we need to look at the previous chord and figure out which one of these notes can lead to that C by moving 0, 1, or 2 semitones. So that cannot, this can. I can keep the C the same, and that moves to the C in the next chord by 0 semitones. So that is preparing the dissonant note. Okay? And the bass is going to be, this bottom voice, or 1, is going to be D. So now we have a D in the chord, and we have a C in the chord. The other 2 notes we need in the chord are F sharp and A. And that leaves layers 3 and 4 to play F sharp and A. It looks like layer 4 already has A, so we'll keep that the same. And then layer 3 can move up to F sharp. Okay? And that is how we lead to that chord. So we've prepared that dissonant note by keeping layer number 2 on the same note. Finally, we're going to go from this D major minor 7 to a G. And again, because this chord has a dissonant note, we need to make sure that that dissonant note resolves. In other words, it needs to go down by 1 or 2 semitones. First, I'll write this chord in reduced form. Okay. Now, because this note is dissonant, it must go down by 1 or 2 semitones. So it's on C, and we need a B in this chord, so I can move that C down to B. And I'll draw an arrow there to show that resolution. That is resolving the dissonant note. Layer number 1 has to be G, because this is a root position chord. And then layers 3 and 4 can have more freedom, but we need to make sure that every one of these notes in this chord appears at least once. So we have a G in the chord, we have a B in the chord, we need a D somewhere, so maybe that layer 3 can move to D, and then layer 4 can go to G. There are other ways of doing this too, but this one is pretty sensible. I will play this entire progression. Repeats. All right, and that is a very quick review of what we went over in class. Best of luck with the homework, and see you all soon.